Hey, I just want you to know that I've been sitting here talking for about 5 minutes, but that's okay. I forgot to hit the go live. There's my girl. How are you, Izzy, darling? Of course, you're enjoying a steaming hot cup of coffee in that mug. I know you love your coffee. Oh my God. I apologize for that. Anyways, today I'm going to be talking about Trails Carolina again to steal a phrase from our buddy Aaron. Trails Carolina done messed up because there are at least two lawsuits now against them from former residents who were uh, SA'd by an older resident there. And these people are, my understanding is that there's at least three victims, but I only know of two who have filed suit, which I think is fantastic. Um, I have found out the name of the young boy who passed, but I am not sharing it because it came from an unauthorized source, a sleuther who found out his name, and I'm not going to share it because if the family doesn't share it, I'm not going to say it. If and when the family decides to share his name, I will talk about him directly, and I will also be doing a virtual vigil slash celebration of life for him and for Alec Lansing, who was the 17-year-old boy who died uh, in 2014 after getting. There's conflicting stories, so I don't want to put one or the other stories of his passing. He did pass with hypothermia and he had a broken leg when he was found. And they, as in Trails Carolina, they didn't notify authorities for 5 hours, so they got fined $12,000 whole dollars for that incident. That's how much that kid's life is worth. Not true, but apparently to the state of North Carolina. Hopefully, we can get these real laws and regulations on the books, both on a state and national level. I'd really like to see that. So I want to start today with something that I have mentioned before, which is a previous investigation that WBTV did in 2021, and I have a lot of respect for WBTV and this particular journalist, and just think he's doing great stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and watch this video. If there's an ad before it, my apologies, but let us go ahead and watch this.
Peyton and his daughter were running a
Okay.
10K when he collapsed.
My daughter.
All right, hang on. So I can just talk for 8 seconds here, but while we get through this.
Oh, he's back to running marathons.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. A WBTV investigation.
This is 7 minutes.
On a camp in
I
the
hope that's
mountains
okay.
of North Carolina called Trails Carolina. It claims to provide therapeutic wilderness experiences for children with mental and behavioral disorders. But as we first told you tonight at 6 o'clock, some who have experienced the program say they got the opposite. WBTV's chief investigative reporter Nick Oxner spoke with one woman who described being taken from her home in the middle of the night, brought to the camp, and subjected to months of unclean conditions and what she calls psychological abuse. The camp is licensed by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. But what are regulators doing to protect children?
Deputies say he left a camp for at-risk teens.
When 17-year-old Alec Lansing ran away from Trails Carolina in November 2014, it took staff more than 5 hours to call for help, and it took 12 days to find him dead after he fell from a tree into a creek and broke his femur.
Alec Lansing died from injuries and exposure.
The local sheriff's office told investigators with the Department of Health and Human Services that had they been called sooner, they would have had a much better chance of finding the teen. So, what did the state do? They fined Trails $12,000 and let the facility keep operating.
I do believe.
See that? An administrative penalty of $12,000 was imposed, and they were allowed to continue to operate. Just wanted to make sure we all
And
heard that.
let the facility keep operating.
I do believe that there is things that the company could have done to have made for a safer environment.
Jonathan Hyde worked as a guide at Trails for about 6 weeks last summer, years after Lansing died. He was typically one of 3 staff, none trained as therapists, sent to the woods to supervise a group of roughly 10 high-risk teens.
I had kids that were vocally suicidal. I had kids that tried running away. I had kids that would try and fight you.
To prepare him for his new job, which paid minimum wage and came with long hours, Hyde got 3 days of rush training. Even though Trails recently claimed in a letter to North Carolina state senators, staff undergo a rigorous 5-day training.
A rigorous 5-day training. A rigorous 5-day training to deal with children that they claim are suffering from severe mental health issues and addiction. 5 days. I don't have words for I don't. I do, but I'm not sharing them.
While Hyde was in the woods, the teens he was responsible for keeping safe only saw a therapist for 1 hour a week.
For the amount of money that I have a general idea of what they're charging for this, if I was a parent, I'd be pretty pissed to find out what the actual therapy that happens.
I remember making every night praying to a God I don't even believe in, saying, if you get me out of here.
Kathleen Riley went to Trails in 2012.
We went once without 17 days without showering. Yeah, we were denied basic hygiene all the time. That was, again, and I thought, oh, it's just part of the process. Yeah. I mean, we're in the woods.
So you spend most of the time in the woods.
Yes.
With people who aren't trained therapists.
No.
But who are
Yes.
but who are deciding what you're doing every day.
Mm-hmm.
And they call that therapy?
Yeah, part of the process, part of the program.
What would you call it?
Abuse.
Inspection records from DHHS showed Trails was cited for 50 deficiencies between 2010 and 2019, including improper medication handling 10 times, failure to protect participants from harm, abuse, and neglect 4 times, and improper use of seclusion, physical restraint, and isolation 4 times.
50 deficiencies. I talked about this in the first video that I did about Trails. 50 deficiencies between 2010 and 2019. That doesn't even cover 2020 to now. 10 times improper medication handling, 4 times failure to protect against harm, abuse, and neglect, and 4 times improper use of seclusion, restraint, and isolation. Abuse. These are all abuse. It's all abuse. Now, I would guarantee that the improper medication handling, I'm kind of spitballing here, but considering how rigorously they train and how heavy of credentials their staff need, there's probably staff members that just weren't giving the kids their meds and were taking them themselves. Or I happen to know from my own experience that they had a tendency to, darn it, I forgot what I was going to say. Or they drug you without even telling your parent to sedate you and keep you complacent. And yes, let's just put that up there right now. Think about what the real numbers, because those are the only time cited. 100%. That's a total great point to make, because, for every one thing that's not, for every instance that's reported, I'm sure there's a statistic out there, and I might have to look it up. Can you imagine how many? Is it the same thing as like a bad review? Like if somebody likes a place, they'll tell 5 friends, but if somebody doesn't like a place, they'll tell 10. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I will be by the next time you see me.
None of those, among the dozens of other violations, led to DHHS taking any real action against Trails. And it's been 2 years since the program was last inspected. We wanted to ask a DHHS leader how a program where a child died and inspectors have found so many problems is still operating.
I just wanted to point out really quick here in this moment that this story is from 2021.
But they refused to answer our questions on camera. Instead, they sent a statement defending their handling of the incident after the teen died and saying, quote, Trails Carolina was not found to have substantially failed to comply with the applicable laws and regulations such that DHHS could suspend or revoke their license pursuant to North Carolina law. DHHS.
Now, I want to rewind that just a little bit for a second. But I just want to point out.
DHHS records show.
So hang on, let me.
Revoke their license pursuant to North Carolina law.
Okay, the important thing to see here is the pursuant to North Carolina law. We don't have real laws, right? We don't have real regulations and laws on the books in the states that are good enough. There are states that have stricter regulations than others. North Carolina happens to be very lax in their regulations with these programs. Most of the programs in North Carolina and South Carolina, from my research, are in fact wilderness programs. If you've been to the Carolinas, it's pretty wildernessy. But I just wanted to point out how important that last part of that sentence is, pursuant to North Carolina law. This is why it's important to change the laws and make the laws. And you want to protect kids, prove it. That's all I have to say is prove it.
Law. DHHS records show Trails' last 3 inspections were done in 2016, 2018, and 2019, even though state regulations require inspections every 12 to 15 months. An agency spokeswoman said inspections were suspended during the pandemic, even though Trails Carolina continued to operate. Kathleen Riley, who spent 3 months at Trails in 2012, is still struggling nearly a decade after her experience.
The trauma that these people live with, even my parents or myself, it's beyond cruel. It's I didn't ask for this, but I was told I deserved it so many times every day.
Nick joins us now in studio to talk more about his reporting on this. Let me just ask you first, I guess, what is Trails saying about all of this?
Yeah, Jamie, I actually sent a detailed list of topic areas that we'd like to talk with Trails about and asked for an interview with them. They declined that interview, but they did send a brief statement saying, in part, quote, since its founding, Trails has helped make a difference in the lives of more than 2,800 adolescents.
So you noted there in the piece that DHHS as inspectors, right, had stopped stopped doing these inspections, I should say, during the pandemic.
Okay, I just want to point out again, this was done in 2021. At that point, 3 years ago, they claimed to have helped at least 2,800 kids. Everything that we've watched in the 2 previous videos claim that it's 2,700 kids. So if you can't even get the numbers right, I don't believe anything that you say. They're just garbage.
Itself. Is that to say that Trails wasn't operating, or was it operating?
No.
If you're not being inspected, one might think you're not operating.
Right. No, absolutely the opposite. They were very much operating. In fact, they had such an influx of participants during the pandemic that Jonathan Hyde, that employee you heard from, who was hired during the pandemic last year, he said that's such an urgent need of staff because they had more kids coming to the program.
You want to know why they had so many more kids coming to the program? Because the parents didn't want to deal with them when they didn't have school. There's so many things wrong with this.
That's why he also said his program, his training, it was only 3 days. Trails claims to have a 5-day training program. He says it was cut short because they needed him out in the woods with those kids as soon as possible.
Some of these violations date back years, right? Has the management at the time has it changed for Trails, or it's still the same people running it?
No, the turnover for people like the employee, the Jonathan Hyde, out in the woods, those guides, that turnover is very high, very quick. But the executive director has been with Trails since its creation, more than 10 years now, and the therapists, many of the same therapists, are also still at Trails.
Is Trails Carolina the only program like it in North Carolina, or are there others similar to this?
No, there are other programs like Trails Carolina in North Carolina. There are a lot of these, a lot more out west, but there are some other wilderness programs, and there are some other residential programs in North Carolina. We plan to look into a lot more of them moving forward.
And you did mention in the story that you submitted answers from to the group of state senators, right, who were wanting to hear more about this.
Yeah.
Are they really looking into this? How seriously are they looking into this?
This was 3 years ago, so clearly they weren't looking very deeply into it. They just obviously told Nick that they would look into it.
Yeah, it's not clear how much action the state Senate has taken beyond sending that letter with those questions. But we do know it's on their radar. That's how we saw this letter and the answers that Trails or Trails' lawyer sent them. I do expect, as we start to look at Trails, as we press DHHS officials for answers here, as we uncover more of stories like this that you heard tonight, I think this is going to be something that's definitely on the radar and will get the attention of state lawmakers.
Well, and as you said at the very beginning, we've heard from providers throughout this pandemic is that they cannot possibly keep up with the demand that they're dealing with right now. So it's important that you keep asking the questions about this, and I know you will. Nick, thank you. For more on—
Let me just say something about Nick. He's kind of a hero. Wow, it just got dark in here. I mean, that's not doing any good. Hang on 1 second. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right. So, it's a great report, right? And the state senators, they were all worried about it, right? 3 years ago. How many more violations have they had since 2019, 2021, 2020? Like, just, a boy died on February 3rd. It's still less than a month, but these stories, they tend to go quiet if people don't pay attention. And I know I'm paying attention. Second, I'm looking for another story. All right, this isn't a very long video, so it might be a little bit redundant, but I'm going to go ahead and share this.
That's CPI.
Hang on. I'm gonna share this as soon as the ad is over, or as soon as I can skip the ad. Oh, hello, Ivan. Okay, so yeah, so I'm just doing whatever I can to keep those in the administration at Trails Carolina's feet to the fire. I can't imagine. Oh, hang on a second. Where's my sound?
For trouble you that has
hang
been
on a second. Hang on. I'm sorry. I'll just end up talking all day. So here we go with this story. This is a couple months later.
At 6 o'clock, state regulators have cited new problems at a camp for troubled youth that has been the subject of a WBTV investigation. We have previously told you about Trails Carolina, a wilderness camp that advertises itself as a therapeutic program for kids and teenagers.
After our investigation earlier this year, state regulators inspected the camp for the first time in more than a year. WBTV's chief investigative reporter Nick Oxner has the story on what they found.
I did grow, but it left me with a lot of trauma and issues that I didn't have going into it.
Rebecca Burney went to Trails Carolina in 2016, just days after her 14th birthday. She was dropped off by her parents, scared, not knowing what to expect. Trails is a wilderness therapy program, which advertises itself as a place where troubled teens can get help.
I read what the other students had said, and it was like, I could recognize and think of instances of the same exact things, like in my own experience.
Did you do any therapy?
Yeah, but it wasn't much.
These are called therapeutic wilderness programs.
Yes.
Did you get much therapy?
There's no real therapy that happens.
Bernie's recollection of her time at Trails mirrors what Kathleen Riley told us in May.
It's not normal. It's not humane, and it's just not what it does to your brain. You still don't even want to admit to it. It's just like it's still there, and they have that power over you.
And a decade of inspection records show Trails has been repeatedly cited for not following state regulations, including after a participant ran away from the program and died in 2014. Now, a new inspection in late June of this year cites Trails for more problems, including not properly administering medication and not giving participants the ability to call their parents.
I do see changes in her.
So this is something that is across the board used at TTI programs. Isolation from family and friends. A lot of these places only have contact after 30 days. Sometimes they don't have contact at all. Sometimes it takes a week. It just depends, but they limit contact, and any telephone calls are monitored. You know, the phones are always by the administrator's desk, depending on how the facility is laid out.
But I didn't want him to come at a cost that caused her damage.
Beth Burney is Rebecca's mother.
You sent your daughter to Trails. Are you happy? Are you glad you did that?
I am happy when I see some growth in her, and I do see that. I'm sad when she tells me how horrible it was.
I can see why they would send me. It's just they didn't choose the greatest place, and that's not on them. They didn't know.
Do you think that the help they wanted you to get, do you think you got that?
I don't think so.
If you had to talk to the people at Trails today, what would you tell them about your experience?
I'd say that everything they did has affected me in both positive and negative ways, but I will never forgive them for what they did to me.
Now, the inspection by DHHS in June was the first time since March of 2019 that the facility has been inspected. A spokeswoman for Trails Carolina did not respond to multiple messages seeking comment for this story, and Trails has not yet filed a plan of correction in response to the recent citations. Guys?
You know, that D'Alessandro lady from Wendy D'Alessandro from Trails, she's a trip. I agree, Izzy. It is heartbreaking and unthinkable that this place has been allowed to run for so long. Yes, it's heartbreaking, and it's going to be incredibly unfortunate for them if they either answer the phone on Monday or return my voicemail that I'm going to leave for them on Monday, saying that they're accepting new clients, because I will turn them into the state of North Carolina for that. So that was what I wanted to, but I just still want to go. I want to check WBTV's website again today just to see if there's anything new. Otherwise, this isn't going to be a very long video today, y'all. I went on a field trip today. I will tell you about it. Nope, there's nothing new from WBTV, but let me just make sure that it is still up. I just wanted to remind everybody that this website that's not supposed to be up. Hi, Unique. Look what's still up. Oh, by the way, in case you wanted to see this. Yeah. trailscarolina.com. Still online. Not supposed to be, but they still are. So that's all I have to cover about the Trails Carolina 12-year-old boy's death case at the moment. Again, I do know his name. If anybody does their own research and finds it, please don't share it, because it's not from an family authorized source. And there might be people that you know, that think negatively of parents. And I mean, you know, there was something in that last video, right, with the mom, when she's like, oh, hi, or like, you know, oh, I'm happy, like, you know, I'm happy when I see good results, like when she's improved, and she has, but then I'm mad when she says how horrible it was. I really hope that lady, that was 3 years ago, I hope that lady has watched that and come around to what she said, because she just completely contradicted herself from one sentence to the next. Like, I'm happy that there's results, that she's doing better, but I'm mad that she said it was horrible. Okay, so what she's getting better from is the fact that you sent her to this program without doing enough research. And that's, hi, Anne. How's our hummingbird today? It's good to see you. I hope you're feeling okay today. No, we haven't talked in a bit. We haven't talked since before you got out of the hospital. But right. So I decided today, it was a spur of the moment thing. It wasn't something that I had necessarily planned to do, but I happened to be near my high school from 9th grade today and in this morning. And then when I got done doing what I was doing for my dad, I decided that I was going to do a field trip. So I did a bunch of video from the high school that I was going to. I only went there for a semester and a half. I actually only have a semester and a half of high school credits, but I have a GED, which is basically just taking high school in a 4-hour test. So that was kind of no new inspection. No, I'm imagining that they're doing inspections now because they have to decide that they're going to be allowed to reopen. And given that the laws in the state haven't changed, I don't see anything that's going to stop them from, I mean, the fine might be bigger, maybe because, I don't know, because this kid was in a building. What this one's going to be, 20,000? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take, right? I don't know what it's going to take for them to shut these places down. But luckily, you have survivors like myself, and you have our survivor advocacy network in Unsilenced, Meg Applegate, and everything that she does, and she works tirelessly. I know Paris Hilton gets a lot of credit, and I give Paris Hilton a lot of credit. We've talked about her before. She just happens to be a famous person who went through this, so everyone associates the troubled teen industry with Paris Hilton, like she was the first person to ever speak about her experiences, but that's not true. She just happens to be the first famous person, also not the only famous person. I've found out a list of people, including Tom Hanks and whatever his wife's name is, I don't remember. They sent their son Chet to I actually don't know if Chet is from that marriage or from before. But Tom Hanks sent his son Chet to Troubled Human History programs. He's not the only person, but I think he's the one that surprised me the most, disappointed me the most, hearing that. I imagine when you're a desperate parent, you know, you're looking for any kind of help, but that's no kind of help. And considering Chet's life since then, you know, I feel really bad for him, and I hope that he's doing well. So back to my circle back, I decided I was going to go on a field trip. So I went to my high school. Obviously, it wasn't open. I didn't even try the doors, but I walked around the outside, and I did some talking about experiences at the school, remembering how that school was, and then, you know, also wondering what it would have been like if I would have been able to complete my high school education at that school, because it was I'm so sorry, excuse me. That should have been the school, Churchill High School, Livonia, Michigan, from 1984 to 1988 for sure. It should be used as a template on how to have a high school, because they had everything. It was every, you know, obviously it's a big sports school, and we had all the sports, and you know, they were good teams. And the funny thing about that school, and it's probably because it was we were considered lower middle class people that went to that school. But everybody was the same. Like, when I ended up trying to go to a different school in Livonia after coming out of my second program, everybody was in cliques. Like, you had the burnouts and the jocks. But the really messed up thing about that school is they didn't call burnouts. They called them dirt. I actually got in my last, like, actual physical fight with a football player, a male football player, because he knocked into me and he said, "Get out of my way, dirt." And something in me just snapped, and I jumped on him, and I managed to knock him over, and I was hitting him. My friend Brian, who's no longer with us, pulled me off of him. It was crazy, but that was just, I mean, you know, it's awful. It is. You're right. But at the other school, that's the thing, though, that my point is that Churchill, burnouts and jocks were the same people. We all went to middle school together, and where I lived, middle school is only 2 years, so it's really intensely awful. I know that middle school is awful for everybody, but it's intensely awful when it's only 2 years. Thank you. Well, I'll tell you, Anik, my dad taught me young that he didn't want to hear me complaining or crying to him about my bullies. I want you to go and kick their ass. Thank you, Anne. So, you know, I had that in my head, like, well, nobody's gonna bully me. I'm gonna defend myself. So anyway, so, but, and so not only was everybody considered the same, and there was nobody, it was, I don't know, it was a special place. And not only did we have all the athletics, we had theater, we had choir, we had marching band, we had dance. I mean, this school was ahead of its time. And the principal, Mr. McFarland, William McFarland was his name. You know what? I'm going to look him up when I get done and see if he's still around. His son was in my grade. This man was so amazing at his job and cared so much about kids. He ended up getting demoted from a high school principal to an elementary school teacher, and was eventually fired or kind of forced early retirement, because heaven forbid you connect with the kids in your school. I don't know, make this make sense to me, because it doesn't. He was a really good man, and it was a really good school. He also, and like I said, we're talking 84, 85. He started a program. It was a class, so it was an hour, but it was a class for kids in recovery or struggling to be in recovery due to an incident that happened to me and my two friends that I do believe I explained before and talked about in my video, where my friend Dawn had got a joint and it happened to be laced with PCP, and we smoked it in the back parking lot. And I would say hilarity ensued, but there was nothing hilarious about that experience. And I didn't really even smoke that much weed at the time. I was smoking cigarettes like it was my job, but but this joint, and anyway, so my friends Lisa and Dawn, they went to Mr. McFarland's office because they were feeling all freaked out first. I was trying to fly under the radar and be kind of normal. And I just went to the assistant principal's office and signed in. The weird thing is that the pen, I'll show you, I'm signing my name, and the pen just kept I couldn't hold the pen in my hand. It was like someone put Vaseline on it, but it was just because I was so out of it. Oh, and I had already peed my pants while we were still in the parking lot from laughing, but because I was so out of it. I had no idea what was wrong. None of us had any idea what was wrong with us. Lisa and I were 14 and Dawn was 15. And so they went to Mr. McFarland's office, and Lisa freaked out and had to be taken away by ambulance. So I got called down to his office, and he asked me what happened. And I told him that, Dawn had a joint and we smoked it, and something's wrong because all this stuff happened. And then he told me what happened in his office with them. And he said, this is terrible memory. Wow. He said that, I was already back. This is right before I was sent away. I'm pretty sure that this was the main impetus of this woman being able to convince my father that I was an addict. Mr. McFarland said, I had to send Lisa to the hospital. I had to have Dawn's mom come pick her up. I'm gonna have to call your dad. And my dad worked midnight. He was a truck driver, a Teamster truck driver for a local food chain, and I lost it. And again, remember, I was not of sound mind at the time because I smoked a laced joint. And I started bawling and screaming, begging him, please don't call my dad. You can't call my dad. My dad's going to kill me if you don't, or if you call him, I will unalive myself. I was just saying all these crazy things and losing it. And I distinctly remember the man crying. I made him cry with my severe panic because I already knew he had already kicked me out once and had me go live with my mom, and things were, not great there. And then I had no choice. Hi, Kristen. Thank you for joining us. I'm just explaining. I was explaining my field trip, but now I'm explaining the story and the story of what gave my counselor an excuse to have me sent to a drug treatment program. So he did not call my dad right away. Actually, he did end up calling my dad. Hey, I'm needing a meeting must be over. I see you, lady. Hello. Look at that. I love it. I love how connected we all are and how supportive everybody is of each other. You guys have no idea. I'm so humbled. I'm really humbled that anybody would want to hear this crazy story of mine, right? Seriously, I never thought I'd have an opportunity to have a voice. I really thought that my memories were going to be locked away and my mouth was going to be sealed shut forever, and I couldn't be more grateful that it's not. And I love you too, Anik. I really do. So, just to finish this horrible story, so he had me go. So Mr. McFarland had me go lay down at the Oh, thanks, Kristen. Most of what you missed so far, honestly, was the stuff about Trails Carolina. You didn't miss a whole lot about my story, but to me, the Trails Carolina story is as important to me as my own story. But it does also give me a reason to be able to share my story, which is surprisingly uplifting for me, even though I horrify people on a regular basis with my stories. And I do apologize, and I got to get better about saying trigger warning and writing trigger warning, because my brain hasn't really caught up to that, so I'll do better on that moving forward when I start talking about things that are difficult, which pretty much, anything that I talk about on this channel is going to be difficult. But so he had me go lay in the school nurse's office, and there was like a bed, not a bed really, but it was like a hospital bed thing in there until the end of the school day. He did end up he had to call my father, unfortunately, but he didn't do so right away. But then my grandson watched a couple of your videos, but he wasn't sure if it would be okay with you to join, basically due to his age. How old is he, Anne? Because I don't remember. Your older grandson? I mean, he can watch stuff, because I don't swear. I mean, as long as he's comfortable with it, I don't have a problem with it. I don't. I do put that my videos aren't for kids, meaning for kids to. Oh, no, 21's fine. 21's 100% fine with me. And yay, next Tuesday. Let's get that. Oh no, never mind. Can't say that stuff anymore. So yeah, so that's the end of that. So that's the end of that story. And then, I had my next session with the counselor. My dad had already talked to this lady, and that's when the idea became a plan. She had been trying to warm me up to the idea for about a month or so. I would say I was only back home with my dad for about a month before being sent to Minnesota. So I went around school. I went around the school today, looked in a couple hallways, told a couple of stories, including that one. And then I went to the house that I was living with. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a headache. He was flabbergasted, and his mom almost sent both him and his brother to one of. Every time I see that state name, I get goosebumps and I cringe. Because if there is one state in this country that causes more abuse to children than the rest of the country combined, it is Utah. They have over 100 troubled teen industry programs in Utah alone. And that's covering the whole spectrum, the therapeutic boarding schools, the wilderness camps, and the residential treatment programs. And it's crazy. And I'm really grateful that I know. Is that why you're estranged from her? Because that would make sense. Because I would definitely estrange myself too. I'm really grateful that she didn't. Right. No, I knew that they lived in Vegas. I just I couldn't remember if that was the reason for yours. Yeah. And I know that there's other reasons, but okay. So thank you for reminding me. This stuff over here it's a lot better. Bruising under my eyes and then along the side of my face, but it's not nearly as bad as it was earlier in the week, and it's starting to get a little yellow and green. So that's good. So after I went to the school, I went over to Utah is terrible, 100%. That place is a nightmare. And I don't think there's ever gonna. I mean, it would have to be federal legislation against the troubled teen industry, because the state of Utah is not going to do anything. So we lived in this house. We moved in. I was 12 when we moved in. I was 14 when I left. And then, so my dad and his second wife and I lived in this house. So I went there and I took some video of the house and telling a little, oh, how do I look on your TV, Tammy? Like really big. I'm trying not to mess with my hair and my glasses the whole time. I'm kind of doing this with my fists, with my hands, so that I don't mess with myself too much. So then I went to the house. I did a little bit of video there at that house. Then I stopped at my favorite slider joint, which is called Bates Burgers, and that is where I had my very first. Cool. Thank you. Did it sound good? Did I sound all right? Then this it's a great little corner. Been there for like 60 something years. Slider joint, and they used to only take cash, and until the last couple years, I think it was the COVID lockdown that caused them to start taking credit and debit cards. They only used to take cash, but that was the first place I ever worked, and also a very traumatizing event happened to me there that I talk about in my video. And then I went to my grandma's house and did some video there, because my grandma had that house built in 1963 with her own money from her job. She was a divorced single mother. She was moving out of her parents' house in Detroit, and she had this house built in Livonia. Livonia was like, it wasn't what it is now. You know, it was dirt roads and just a few houses and then some old farmhouses and stuff. But that's the only home I've ever known was my grandma's house. I lived there 3 times in my life. I lived there after my parents got divorced. So from 6 years old to 11 when my dad married his second wife. And then from 15 to 17. And then again when I was 23 to 24, I lived with her. She was the only constant in my life. I was never a constant in anyone's life because I started running away at 14. So that was kind of a drag. And again, like I said, the reasons that I was running away, it started out when I was living with my dad due to our terrible relationship. I just didn't. We just had a terrible relationship. We have an amazing relationship now. I'm very, very happy and proud to say I'm incredibly proud of my dad and myself for the progress that we've both made and the wonderful relationship that we have. And at the time, you know, we didn't, because I didn't understand. I didn't understand my dad. And I didn't understand that my dad was also a survivor of childhood trauma. I always knew, but I never understood until I got older, and then started seeing him different. And in the last 7 years now. For the last 7 years, we've had the best relationship we've ever had. And I would say the same goes for my mom. I've had difficulties in my relationship with my mom throughout my life. But my mom and I, since I moved home in 2018, have had, back to having a really wonderful relationship. And I'm so grateful for that, because I can tell you that for decades, I never thought that would happen with either one of them. And, a lot of that was me, because if I'm not around, it's kind of hard to have a relationship with me. And if I make our relationship difficult because survivors of childhood trauma, especially troubled teen industry program survivors, have a tendency to not be able to hold down a job, to not be able to hold down intimate or have good and healthy intimate relationships, to not be good with friendships. There's a lot of struggle there. And that is something that I never understood until this last 14 months, why was I so restless? Why I could get any job I wanted. I've had jobs that people would pay money to do. I've had jobs that people only dream about. And those are the only jobs that I ever was really good at, because it was constant travel and, doing different, it's never the same thing. Like it is if you're doing the same thing over and over again, but it's in a different city, and it's, different people. It's fun. It was fun. And that was my whole thing, was chasing the fun, because I didn't really have any fun in my life. I thought it'd be funny to wear this Livonia Mall shirt that my friend Heather bought me today, because my Alice necklaces away so you can see this. There's this, for most of us, we know about mall culture, right? And the fact that I'm wearing the Livonia Mall one, first of all, is a dumpy mall. Second, Livonia, and Livonia is a gross, bougie suburb of Detroit. And so I went to my grandma's, and then, and I ended the field trip. At Jason's house and his grandparents' house. So when I post a video, and you'll see it, they lived next door to each other, but there was a side street in between the big house and the little house. It was triggering. It was traumatizing. Obviously, it right now I'm having a visceral reaction. Yeah, my head's tingling and my chest is tingling. I'm starting to sweat. I don't know. I went there. I guess because I told my dad that I have a YouTube channel today. I didn't tell him the name of it or how to find it or anything, but I did tell him that. Luckily, he doesn't have a very good memory. So. And that's not a dig at people that don't have good memories. My dad never had a good memory. That guy would forget his head if it wasn't okay. Sorry. So I ended at Jason's place, and then because I knew that I had to get going for Surviving Together with Sharon, and because we had talked earlier about possibly doing her stream together. So we did do a good majority of that stream together, and that was amazing. I have to highlight this so that everybody sees this. Everybody with anxiety, give me one in the chat. I'll wait. But thank you. No, the reason that I highlighted that, I don't need anybody to respond. I do this. I don't know how many of you, thank you. I mean, I don't know how many of you do this. People that are living with anxiety. I have a tendency to I hold my breath a lot. I don't, and when I do breathe, I breathe quite shallow. That's why things like that are great for me. It's like a reminder to just wait, hang on, breathe, take a breath. Sharon will do that for me too. She'll be like, all right, time to do some box breathing. And I'm like, thank you. I do need people to remind me of this. It's right on. Well, I'll remember that, Tammy, so that when you freeze up, I can be there for you too. But thank you. Excuse me. So that was, and I didn't show my face in that video. It wasn't about me. It was about showing visuals to go with the stories, right? Like, I can tell you all these stories, but now you're going to have an idea of the school that I went to. You're going to know what the house I lived in looked like. You're going to know about Bates. You're going to know what happened at Bates, because I'm not. Okay. Trigger warning number 2. Never told my family this. When I was 15 years old and working at Bates, there was a man that came in. I was 15. There was a man that came in his 20s. I believe that he was I think he was 27. I want to say that he was 27. I can't prove that. I don't think I saw his ID or anything. But he was a good-looking guy. He was did what? Shared your story? It's really difficult, and especially for somebody who avoids cameras at all costs, like myself. I don't avoid cameras. I'm a photographer, so obviously I love cameras, but I prefer to be on the other side. I'm not a fan of seeing myself on camera, yet the whole time that I do my videos, I'm staring at myself, which I don't mean to do. So I'm starting to focus on the light. Go to the light, Carol Ann. Just random trivia, movie quotes, whatever. I make jokes when I'm uncomfortable. You can call me Chandler. Oh, you're doing it too. You're revisiting places. It's funny. I almost drove out to Ann Arbor to go to Alpha House because I happen to know that place is now a family homeless shelter, which is amazing. I couldn't think of something better to do to that place. I wish they would have done that with the hospital in Minneapolis, but they didn't. But I think it's great that Alpha House is now a family homeless shelter out in Ann Arbor. A heck of a lot better than what it was. But I realized the time, and it was cutting way too close into the time for Surviving Together live stream. So I skipped it. I'll do that another time, and I'll think of some other places to stop. That's right. A little bit of early Saturday evening movie trivia stuff. I've not gone back to the so-called school. Yeah, I haven't gone. Oh, I'm going to go to the parking lot or parks or whatever that are the 2 schools that were ADT, which was the adolescent day treatment, while I was living with my grandma after I got out of Alpha House. It was not a regular school. But they've both been raised, which is fine by me. I can fully visualize all these places, but I'm gonna go to I've been in the park, like there's a driveway and there's a parking lot, but the driveway is like a circular driveway at Alpha House, and I've driven through the driveway before. Like I've done the circle before, like years and years, decades ago, but it was closed at the time. But I've never been back to the hospital in Minneapolis, and I've been to Minneapolis many times since 1985, but I never had the nerve to go to the hospital. But I'm going to I'm going to, because I have friends in Minnesota. I'm not sure if anyone from Minnesota is in here right now, but anyways, so I have to finish that story and then I'm gonna be done. I don't mean to end on a bummer, but so this guy came into Bates. It was late in the night, and my grandma hadn't come to get me yet, so I thought he had left. So he had left. He left, after the flirty, like, and him eating. He left. So I was done with work, and I went outside to go have a cigarette, because while my grandmother did know that I smoked and I was allowed to smoke in the house, I am repeating myself. I talked about this. I already talked about this, but I have to talk about it here. Bear with me, everybody. I know that you've already heard this today. But I went outside to have a cigarette, and this man was waiting for me in his car, and he snatched me for the weekend for 3 days and repeatedly S8 me during that period. And then at the end, forced me to give him my dad's phone number so he could tell him that he had me and that my dad could come pick me up at this parking lot of a different mall, actually. And then he just dropped me there, and then my dad picked me up, and to this day he thinks that I took off with this guy for the weekend, when in fact I did not do that. I was kidnapped and held hostage for 3 days. I don't know what got into him that he decided to let me go. I've never really thought about it, to be honest with you. Never once thought about why he did that. Maybe I humanized myself to him. I don't know, but whatever the reason, I'm really grateful that I'm still here. It's definitely not the only time that I've come close to death, unfortunately, but it was a seriously scary situation. And I'm done talking about that now. All right, let's just check a couple of comments real quick, and then I will go ahead and sign off so we have some time. I was put on restriction so many times because I wouldn't be compliant. Yeah, I was on restriction the entire time because I wouldn't admit that I had a problem, because I was in denial. It wasn't possible that I didn't actually have an addiction problem. Oh no, that wasn't it. No, I was a liar. I was in denial, and then you end up having to write this ridiculous confession, the fourth step of doing a moral inventory. It's insanity, right? So I see you 100% on being on restriction, because I was always on restriction. You're amazing too, and I see you, survivor. And if you're not already, Tammy, you should check out unsilence.org. They also have a Discord server as well, if you're interested. Great support system there. Okay, what are they? Oh, thank you for the purple hugs. Purple hugs, purple hugs. I can't believe I'm singing in front of the camera. I never sing in front of people. I love you, Annie. I don't mean to make you cry, honey. Definitely. Thank you for caring to hear it. Thank you for showing up for me. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for checking on me earlier. You have no idea how much that meant to me. And everybody that checked on me today made me even stronger in my ability to do what I did today. You did. Good job. After a lot of work, I'm okay most days. Yeah, I'm only 2 months into my trauma therapy. I mean, obviously, I've been in therapy off and on since I was 11, with a huge gap between 14 and 25, I think, 25 or 26. I wouldn't see a therapist. I didn't trust anybody. So, But I find that the first 3 months after my repressed memories started to come back, I didn't have a good day. I would have a good hour, I would have a good couple hours, but I didn't because the memories were just so fast. But I can say that I have more good days than bad days mentally now. Still dealing with all the physical issues, and eventually I'll get around to having an endoscopy and see what's going on down here, right? I love you too. Thanks for sharing you with the world. You're all better for it. I hope so. Because I'm just an old broad from Detroit, right? But man, have I lived some lifetime. Eventually I'll share some fun stories too. But I don't want those periods of my life to be the highlight of my channel. This channel is not always going to be serious because I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to always be serious. Let's be honest. I can only barely pull off being serious when I have to. That's not true. I can be very professional, but I don't want to share the glory stories because that there's more important things for me to get out for myself and to also assist other survivors, which also assists me back. I don't want to forget, in case any of them are watching, I had my first monthly Troubled Teen Ministry survivor group meetings on Zoom this afternoon while I was doing my field trip, and it was amazing to be with a group of survivors and then a couple therapists there and talk about like another loving and connected group of people. And I'm so grateful for everybody that was at that meeting today. Thank you for helping me get through this day. And said it's okay. Horrified for you and all kids. I'm horrified for the kids that are sitting in these places right now. Friday night, if they've been good enough, they might be watching the movie right now. I feel terrible. The kids in the wilderness camps are freezing right now because they're all out in the woods right now. I love that you've done that, Tammy. Like you get up and speak like a presentation kind of thing. It's funny that I asked that. I've actually considered the idea of doing a TED Talk, but first of all, I don't know how to go about doing that. I'm afraid to talk in front of people, obviously, but I don't know actually how to go about it. And I'm a young old broad from Quebec who loves to sit at the feet of wisdom and experience to live. You know what, honey? You are a special human being. I appreciate you so much. And our conversation yesterday, Izzy, was beautiful. And you are definitely part of my family now and forever. Sorry, not sorry. Well, you know what, Anne? We're all better off for knowing you too. We're actually all better off for knowing each other. Seriously, this is such a beautiful community of people that I never thought that I would come across in my life. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the crazy chain of events that have brought us all together like this. It's phenomenal to me. Yeah, I'm working on that. Oh. Yes, hippies. It's funny. I will tell a really quick funny story. There we go. Now we got something. So I was a big part of the local Detroit music scene back in the late 80s and early 90s. And I had friends in all kinds of bands, metal bands, rock bands, hardcore, punk, electronic music because EDM, I don't know if anybody's into EDM, electronic dance music, was originated here. Thank you very much in Detroit. Not just Motown. We are the music. Well, I know Nashville calls himself Music City, but the therapist had someone ask her about me. That's awesome. I think I would really love to do that, to speak out. Sharing stories you look back on as a fun time are important as well. It's all part of your story and journey. You should not feel it's not appropriate or as important. Now, I will say that I don't. There's just certain periods of my life that may have intersected with people who are famous. So I don't want it, I don't want to be, everybody that knows me knows that I'm severely allergic to name dropping. So, I want till everything gets out here. We talk privately. You guys all know me, but for everybody else, no, this is not yet. But fun little pithy stories like the one I just told. I'm totally down with that. You're welcome anytime. Oh, you promise? You said you'll cook. I'm there. Cook. Okay, so we're gonna have a feast. We're gonna go kayaking on the river. Yep. When it's warm enough, I will drive up. Tammy like the kayak too? Oh, man. I'll come see you. You know what? I'll do a cross-country road trip, and I'll pick you up, and we'll go to LA, and we'll join the crew out there. We do heal from telling our stories. I agree with you. I do, because I actually feel better than I did before I started this. Who would have thought that the Church of Scientology, by way of Aaron, would have led me to you beautiful people? One I can thank them for. Yeah, it's so crazy because it's 100% how the group of people in my live chat and I came together was thanks to Aaron Smith Levin, who we all I don't know, how far along Aaron's journey we all were a part of, but I actually have been following Aaron's page since he started on YouTube because I was everybody, maybe not everybody, most of the people who shared their stories on Scientology and the aftermath, they really, really felt them in my soul. Scientology has a lot of similarities to the troubled teen industry and actually also uses the game, which came from Synanon, and they have Narcanon, which is, they also have that for adolescents too, their drug program, and then they have the Delphian Academy. So they double dip on the Church of Scientology double dips on the troubled teen industry programs, and for all we know, they might be doing wilderness programs too. I'm not 100% sure. Where am I? Stop. Not happening. Wait, don't we have somebody in here from Jersey, from the dirty Jersey? You're not alone. None of us, that's the thing, y'all. None of us are alone. I think we're all due for a road trip. We do need a tour bus. But who's going to drive it? Don't say me. I mean, I can do some of the driving, but we need a driver. I'm very comfortable on a tour bus, if that tells you guys anything. I lived on tour buses off and on for years. So horse shows. So I'm interested. I want to. We'll get together and talk. I want to know about that. Kristen, you've never been to California? If you see California, You're almost home. That is a song by Chris Robinson. And when I moved to California, I drove out there. And as I was crossing the state line into California in the high desert, the 40 and Hummingbird, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But as I was crossing the border into California, I started playing that song "If You See California" by Chris Robinson. It was planned. And then as I was coming down the hill on the 10 of the 10, coming down the hill, and I see LA, everything comes back to music for me. I'm a music fanatic, in case you didn't notice. Oh God, David Bowie, Mick Jagger. That, of course, is Tim Curry, but I'm trying Tim Curry. Most of my music stuff is in the other room. Oh, wait. James Brown on my calendar. This is nobody can ever see this, but this is Charles Bukowski. It says, "Find what you love and let it kill you." It's one of my life models. Right? And then I've got Rumi over here. "Shine like the whole universe is yours." It's a great reminder, right? And above my head has to always be "Sarcasm Welcome." Next to me always has to be "I Can't Adult Today." And then above it is the Easter egg that I was talking about to Tommy, and Tommy thought I actually meant a real Easter egg. But I was talking like Easter egg, like a hidden private. I'm not going to use the hidden private jokes right there. Okay. Wait, what blows your mind? What blows your mind? What blows your skirt up? Oh, Misha, I thought that we talked about that word. No need to be sorry, honey. You are so in demand. You have a very, very busy life. I know. I know. I know. I want to go now. Now I have more than one reason to want to go. Janet. Speaking of Rocky Horror, sorry, Janet. This reminds me. Every time I read your name, I hear that. About Scientology movement creating this lovely and vital community. 100%. What, in California? No. There's some great spots in California. Could do a PCH drive. That would be really amazing. Pretty amazing how we've come together indirectly via Scientology. Yeah, it's amazing. And I can't wait for the party after we have their tax exempt status revoked. I'm just jumping in because Jen was awesome on Sharon's live. Aw, well, thank you. I'm working on the compliments thing. I think like how we all. Right, Kristen is in Texas. Tammy, you're 2 hours from Ontario. Are you in Canada? Because I am, 20 minutes with the travel time through the tunnel from Ontario, Canada. I can see Windsor from my bedroom. Never been west of what, Tammy? Where are you at? Everywhere I've been is east for me. Well, then we do need, you know what? Maybe we'll do it. We can either do a double tour with Tommy and Reese, or we can like do dueling tours where we kind of just interweave with each other all the time. I think that'd be super fun. And with Tommy being a former Deadhead, I'm sure he would love that. Larry was born and raised in Detroit, but he lived in Jersey before Vietnam. That's right. We love Larry here. Me neither. I love Chris Robinson. I do too. I saw him live. He opened up for Elvis Costello and the Imposters. Elvis Costello is a cousin of mine, and I also happen to deeply love his music. And it was super great. It was just Chris Robinson and a accompanying co-guitar player. It wasn't his brother. It had nothing to do with the Crows, but it was amazing. And yeah, I think that guy is fantastic, musically fantastic. I was kicked out of Cali at 3 years old because apparently I was very bad girl. You were kicked out of the state of California? I'm surprised I haven't been kicked out of this country. Another little fun story. I have a Secret Service police file from my days in experiential marketing and doing guerrilla marketing tours in DC, which is a really bad idea to do in the Fortress of Solitude. I know. The Fortress of Solitude belongs to Superman. However, that is like the safest place on earth for politicians, not for the people that live in the city, away from all of the politics. Yep. I don't remember it, but that's what they told me. Well, you know what, Misha, my dad told me that I was raised by wolves, and he accidentally came across me, and my mom was with them, or else he wouldn't have saved me. This has been one of my dad's fun stories. Oh man, that's what I should have done. I have a photo I'll put up, but there's these condo buildings that used to be on the road in between my parents' house and my grandma's house. And there was one of them in particular, the way that the brick is laid out in the different colors. Thomas hasn't been on camera for a while, so he had to hop in. He called it the house for bad kids, and he would always, you're gonna end my life. He always said, if you don't stop it, I'm gonna drop you off at the house for bad kids, which he ended up doing, by the way, when I was 14. But it's something that we still joke about. And I told him, I said, I had a friend in my 20s who had a friend that lived in that building, and we went over there, and I wouldn't even go inside their condo because I couldn't. I was so traumatized from when I was like 4 or 5 years old that I still joke about it and call it and so does my dad. We both call it the house for a bad kid. Joking. I'm just very isolated here right now. Oh, why did I ask you where you were? I have a headache, and somebody's cooking something that smells really good in my building. Got it. I've been everywhere. I'm not going to sing that song. Maybe one day. Nice. Cumming, Georgia. I'm going to leave that alone. Just also want to say that there used to be a hockey team in Macon, Georgia called the Macon Whoopies. It's a real thing. Look it up. Reading a Bukowski book was the most probably only productive thing I ever did while using. Was it Septuagenarian Stew? I'm just curious of which book it was, because Septuagenarian Stew was my favorite of his books. It was a collection of stories. So yes, we're all showing our love for Nick. I have to go, but I'm so proud of you, Jen. I'm proud of you too, Tammy. Thank you so much for joining us today. And please do come back and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I do have to wrap up too. I just want to get through. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, see how it hits you straight, Thomas. All right, jeez. All right, I just want to get through these, and then we'll. Dude, seriously, sorry. See, I mean, it's so weird. We were talking about this in Sharon's life, how much so many of us have in common. Yeah. Yes, you're controlling the narrative, Michelle. 100%. Metro Atlanta. Yeah. That's what I feel about it. Yeah. See, I'm with your friend, Anne. I'm not a fan of Metro Atlanta myself. it is going to be a great party. Absolutely great party. Listen, if they don't come to us, we'll make our own, right? All the things meant for destruction are coming together to bring growth and love because we refuse to consent. Girl, you get a 3 snap for that. You are not knocking over the disco ball. Just another thing I never thought I would say in my life. Thomas, you can't knock over the disco ball. We're having a Saturday night disco party in Detroit. Now I'm getting silly. Oh, I love Tracy Chapman too. There's a country artist who redid Fast Car, and they performed on the Grammys together, and I cried like a baby. It was brilliant. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I know, honey. I'm sending you hugs and loves always. Yeah, he's pretty much a disaster. So he's his Frank's gonna come too, my little girl. So this is Thomas Jerome Newton. He is named after David Bowie's character in his first movie, The Man Who Fell to Earth. So this is Thomas Jerome Newton, the cat who fell to earth. And over here, if I can get my shy girl to come out, actually, I could just shoot and do this. That right there is Ms. Frankie Beans. Now I want you to look at her face. Beans. See that face? The reason that her first name is Frank. I know she's a girl. That cat facial markings are exact to Frank Zappa's facial hair. Look it up. True story. Her name is Frankie Beans. And the beans comes from the fact that I got her when she was 2 months old. And let's just say that things emanated from her back that did not smell good. I wish you were. Well, I don't have anything in the fridge. I'm gonna have to. You all not just come together and cook together instead of just single plates. I would like to think that could be. I would love to do that. What are we gonna do? No, we have to do a 3 snaps and a Z form. Wait, 3 snaps and a that's 4 snaps. 3 snaps in a Z formation. This is what I'm talking about. Thank you for being proud of me, and I'm super happy for the friendship here too. I'm grateful is what I am. And everybody. Yeah, Frank, she's stunning, and she's so soft. What is wrong with you? This cat has not gotten over me bringing her home in May of 2021. And it's March of 2024. I thought he wanted a kitty. He's fine. Yep. 3 snaps and a Z formation. See where Frank Zappa went to high school here in Lancaster. Did he? Interesting. That's fascinating because that man was an absolute genius. He was a genius. Add me to that because this community is amazing and you gals are inspirational beyond. Says the inspiration. Misha. You're an inspiration. We inspire each other, right? Right? We inspire each other. We hold each other up. We show up for each other. That's what we do, right? And I'm super grateful for that. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I had to do it. So I'm going to say goodnight because I need to take a couple Excedrin and get something to eat. But I would just like to thank all my soul sisters for showing up for me today, this evening, and for sharing this afternoon. I love you all. And remember, If you do one good thing for one person today, and we all do it, just one every day, we can change the world. I love you all so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay? Everybody take care. You know how to get a hold of me. Much love.